Can ChatGPT pass the Qiskit developer certification? Let's find out. So what is ChatGPT? If you've been living under a rock for the last 6 months and you don't know what ChatGPT is, it's an online chatbot powered by artificial intelligence that has kind of been taking the internet by storm because of its very accurate or sometimes very inaccurate answers. It can interpret, or does a good job of pretending it can interpret, your questions, instructions, and it produces outputs in different languages, different emotional tones, and it can even write code for you. So we're going to get ChatGPT to answer some questions from the Qiskit developer certification and see how well it does with quantum code. So what is the Qiskit developer certification? This is an exam that you can take to essentially just demonstrate you have a fundamental knowledge of what Qiskit is and quantum computing concepts. The exam was released a few years ago. I actually took it as well a couple of years back, and it will probably get updated in future as newer versions of Qiskit get released. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the sample tests that are available online for this exam, and we're going to get ChatGPT to answer these questions. If you go to the website, you can find all of this information and a link to the sample test. As you can see, the questions are all multiple choice, which ChatGPT can't really handle these multiple choice types of questions. So what I'm going to be doing is rewriting these questions in a way that ChatGPT can understand in a bit more of an open-ended type of question and answer fashion. This sample test has 20 questions in total. The real exam has much more. You normally need about a 75% mark to pass. So ChatGPT needs to get around 15 questions out of 20 right from this sample test to say that it has passed the developer certification. So let's get cracking and see how ChatGPT does. Okay, so let's start off with this first question from the sample test. Which statement will create a quantum circuit with 4 quantum bits and 4 classical bits? So, as I said, ChatGPT can't really handle this multiple choice kind of question. So I'm going to reword this in a way that's a bit more open-ended, and I'm going to see if it gives us the correct output that is one of these options. So let's start with, how can I create a quantum circuit with 4 quantum bits and 4 classical bits using Qiskit? Wow, okay, it's doing its thing pretty quickly. Scrolling faster than I can read it, but let's see. Okay, so it says you can create a quantum circuit with 4 quantum bits and 4 classical bits using Qiskit as follows. It's importing the correct thing. This is so far a correct way to define a quantum circuit. We have 4 qubits and 4 classical bits, so that is correct. But it's kind of going a little bit further and like doing a whole bunch of operations on this. So it's kind of, it answered the question correctly, but it was a little bit overkill for what we wanted. And oh my gosh, it also kind of explains like here what's actually happening in the code, and it's actually also giving us code comments, which is great. It makes code really readable. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty solid answer, but this is only the first question, so let's see how it does as we go on, as things get more and more difficult. Okay, so for question 6, in the sample test itself, you are given an image of a Bloch sphere with an arrow kind of lying along the x-axis coming out towards you. And then you're asked to essentially interpret what that means and create and select which is the correct way of implementing that with Qiskit. But for ChatGPT, I can't give it an image and ask it to interpret it. So what I'm going to try and do instead is write out and explain what that image looks like, and then see if it can create code based on that. So I'm going to say, I'm looking at a Bloch sphere with an arrow lying along the x-axis. Do you know what Qiskit code could produce this? There we go. It's saying yes, it does know how to do that. Very confident. And let's see what we've got. Okay, so we have Okay, so it's basically now just spitting out the block vector itself, which I guess is kind of correct, but actually I wanted to know what Qiskit circuits would actually represent that block sphere image. So I might just regenerate this response, give it a second chance to reinterpret this question. Okay, it's again just giving me that block vector. I'm gonna try giving an extra prompt. Can you tell me what quantum circuit would produce that block vector? Okay, let's see. It says it can. Okay, now it's just given me the circuit. And it's giving me the wrong circuit as well. Like actually you would need to add a Hadamard gate to get that. So, okay, I've given ChatGPT 2 tries now for this. So I think we can say that this is a fail for this question. All right, question 9. This one should be pretty simple. I just want to know, how can I implement a CNOT gate 3 different ways in Qiskit? So first up, it gives us CX method, which, yep, applying on 0 and 1, perfect. And then it's, ooh, what is that? That's not the right way to import it. This code would not run. So that's already a no. Let's just see if it can save itself on the last one. And here it's just, I mean, it applied the CX, but it gave us some extra random Hadamards that we didn't ask for. So yeah, no, I think we can safely say ChatGPT did not get this answer right. Okay, next question. In Qiskit, how do I create an operator that represents a single qubit gate? So here I'm really hoping that ChatGPT is going to use the operator class. I don't just want a quantum gate. Specifically, I'm looking for that operator format that Qiskit has available. Oh, yeah, straight out the gate, we're along the right lines, saying you can use the operator class. It's in the quantum info module. So yes, that is looking good so far. Created an H-gate. Oh, okay, we've got some funky stuff going on here with the imports. So while I think some of this, like this is the correct way to initialize an H-gate, it's not the correct way to import it. I believe you import the H-gate from the circuit library. And I think also the operator, you have to import it from qiskit.quantuminfo.operators, if I'm not mistaken. And then it does some weird stuff, like it converts this gate to a matrix and then it wraps it in an operator class. But I'm pretty sure you can just straight away put that gate straight into this operator class here. So I guess this is a really good example of how ChatGPT does things which like look almost right, but if you actually look at it a bit more closely, it's not doing the right thing. Like I don't think that this would run. I think you would get an import error. So yeah, but it does a pretty good job of like confidently explaining the logic of what it's doing, but the syntax is just not right here. What is the output of the following code? So I'm looking for a very specific answer. If anyone just ran this code, they'd get a very specific, short answer of the number of results. So let's see what it says. Okay. Again, always kind of being a teacher's pet, giving me so much more information than I actually asked for. It will be a dictionary representing the outcomes. Yes, that is correct. And yeah, that's right, yeah. One of the results should be 1,000 for the 0-1 output from that. I'm not sure specifically if it would also print out this 0-0 result, or if it would just print out this one, but on the Qiskit developer certification, it's a multiple choice, and it gave you this answer, and this is the correct answer. So yeah, they did it right. Well done, ChatGPT. You ended on a high, got the last question right. Well done. Should I start being worried that AI is coming for my job? I'm not sure. Okay, there we have it. ChatGPT took the developer certification and it actually did pretty well. Didn't quite get enough to pass. I think we'll pop the final score up somewhere. I'm definitely impressed with how far this technology has come forward. Completely see what people have been saying online about how ChatGPT is very confident that it's right, but it's actually not right all of the time. Like, it was giving so much extra information that I didn't ask for. It was giving a lot of detail. It was putting code comments in, which was really nice, and explaining why it was doing things, but it was still getting stuff wrong if you like really pay attention to those little details. So yeah, are they coming for our jobs anytime soon? I am not sure, probably not. If I was a student trying to learn Qiskit and taking the developer certification, I maybe wouldn't use this to practice or try and cheat and take the test with it. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting technology to play around with and to test out. And who knows, maybe by next week it will have learned from everything that it did today and it will get every question right. So I guess let's see what happens.
Scale of 1 to 10, how scary is this?
Oh, like 250. It's crazy good for a piece of code.